Drive-in movies used to be known as passion pits, and 1950s kids could make a hot summer night even hotter at the drive-in. But that was back in Grandma's time. Now drive-ins are making a comeback, and one of them, the Blue Starlite, invites you to feel free to make out in your car. Today we're talking to Josh Frank, the man who reinvented the drive-in. I'm Elaine Viets, and we're talking to Josh Frank at the Blue Starlite Mini-Urban Drive-in on today's Dead End Job Show. Okay, Josh, what is a mini-urban drive-in?
Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a drive-in that's urban in a major city, and it's mini. It's very small. The idea was to take the best of the drive-in, the things that people missed about the drive-in, the things that made a drive-in, and then shrink them so that they would fit into sort of our new, modern day world. And our modern day world is a place where we all live in very tight quarters. We have a lot less space because we're in these cities where streets upon streets are filled with everything you can imagine. And that's where everyone lives now. So we wanted to bring the drive-in to where everyone lived, and to do that, we had to sort of rethink how you would build one in a much smaller place. But also, we wanted to, sort of think to ourselves, well, what are the things we can't take away? And what are the things we want to, make even more important? While making the drive-in smaller, how can we make the things that are most important about what people loved about the drive-in bigger? And that's what I think is at the heart of the Blue Starlite Mini-Urban Drive-in experience.
Why won't drive-ins die? I mean, why did you have to reinvent them?
Well, there are still drive-ins out there. There's just a lot less. There used to be thousands and thousands of them all across the country. The ratio of people going to drive-ins versus people going to, just regular movie theaters was pretty balanced actually. But then over the last 20 or 30 years, it went from thousands to hundreds, and now there's literally, the number keeps sort of shifting a little bit up, a little bit down, but it's somewhere in the 400s around the country, and compared to thousands and thousands, that's a big difference. And what a lot of people blame on it is, that people no longer were spread out living in the country, living, further, people weren't really living in cities. And then once everyone started moving into the cities, the drive-ins became quite far away. And then, of course, cable came, television got better. People didn't really need to leave their homes. And if they were going to leave their homes, they definitely wanted air conditioning, because they're everywhere had air conditioning now. So it was all sort of modern technology and sort of that kind of stuff that actually killed the drive-in. But what's kind of cool is we used modern technology to bring the drive-in back. And, what happened was I sort of thought to myself, well, why, the big question from the beginning was, when I started thinking about doing this venture was, well, did drive-ins die out because no one wanted them anymore, or was it really just, technical, And what I kind of believed in my heart was that they didn't die because people didn't want them. It really was sort of, a technicality. It was circumstantial, and it was that they just didn't innovate. And so it really started as sort of a test. Well, let's see if I could bring the drive-in to Austin, to this little urban environment, and see if I can make it, give people that same experience on a smaller level, and see if they are excited that it's there, or maybe they just don't care. But what we found very quickly is that people were incredibly excited, and it just lit people's hearts on fire with excitement, and it continues to for 3 years now. And so the big discovery, which was so wonderful to discover, is that drive-ins didn't die because there wasn't a need or want for them anymore. They just hadn't been brought into, into the modern age where everyone is now living.
So you now have two Blue Starlite drive-ins, one in Miami and one in Austen?
I do. I'm very proud to say that. I have the one in Austin, which is located at the Austin Film Studios, which is run by the Austin Film Society. It's my third Austin location. I moved from the small alleyway in East Austin with our first, and then the second was, if people are familiar with Austin, on 6th Street on the east side, just on the other side of I-35, which is now a very cool area where there's lots of cool bars and stuff, and we had a great view of downtown. The whole city skyline was the backdrop. It was so great. But then the Austin Film Society up on 51st Street, where the old Mueller Airport was, they took over the National Guard building there, which had a runway for the National Guard back in the 70s, and they gave us one of the runways, and that's now where the Austin Blue Starlite is. And so it's sort of the biggest urban drive-in we've had. We can take 50 cars there. But the Miami one, which we opened a couple of weeks ago in Wynwood, goes back to our roots and to a very small, very intimate driving experience, and we can take 24 cars.
What kind of movies do you show?
Well, I kind of like to, Bob FM, like we play what we want to play, sort of like the radio show. It's sort of
Right.
like that. At least it was at first. Like, I played the movies I grew up loving. It just so happened those were all the movies that everyone else grew up loving. So basically, I sort of consider myself like a movie DJ, like a film DJ, and I basically have a rotation of, the hits I like to play, and, from doing this for 3 years, I know what people want to see, and that's what I show. And it's anything from, Rebel Without a Cause and, The Birds and Rear Window to, The Goonies and Back to the Future and E.T., and Indiana Jones. But we also have like our deeper cut nights in which we play, great 80s movies like Weird Science, The Breakfast Club, you name it. Like, basically things from the 40s all the way up until, the last 5 or 10 years. But the most beloved movies we play are definitely, anything from the 80s. And it works. It works well. We're basically, when all is said and done, we're the first drive-in revival, movie theater. And actually, I was just told recently that we are the only revival movie theater in Miami, and I didn't even know that. But we're happy to be that.
Well, what's interesting about yours is I used to go to the drive-ins with my parents when I was a kid. We had 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
It was $1 a carload. And there was a long line. This was in St. Anne, Missouri, which is near the airport in St. Louis. And there was this real long line. And then you parked wherever the usher showed you. You all lined up. It was one of those big 200-300 car drive-ins. But yours works a little differently. You need to reserve a car spot?
Yeah. There's 2 reasons for that. One is just the fact that we're so small, if you want to be sure you have a spot, you reserve it in advance, Some nights we totally sell out because we're so small. Some nights we don't, and there's extra space, but weekends, you just never know. So on one hand, it's just, it makes it so that people just don't assume that they can just come and get a space like at old drive-in, because we don't want to disappoint people. But the other reason is actually a part of the whole experience we're trying to give people, which is that 1950s ease, that whole we'll take care of it for you. The whole idea that, I find me and my wife, we don't go out much at night, okay? We didn't in Austin, we don't in Miami, because it's a real pain in the butt, you know. Like it's and some and besides it being a real pain and a schlep, it's also like you always end up feeling like this small little ant in an anthill, you know, and you feel insignificant. And that's your Friday or Saturday night. You go home feeling like that. And so part of the Blue experience is like we're trying to create this experience where when you come out for a night of enjoyment and entertainment at the Blue, it's your night. You know, you have our full attention. And we can do that because we're so small. And one of the ways that we make it easy and we make it just like, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of everything. That, like when you would go to the gas station and, you know, the car attendant would fill your tank up, clean your windows, and then ask if you want, you know, gum or candy, he'll get it for you. You know, now you pay 800 times as much for gas, and they don't do anything. You have to pump it yourself. You know, so part of the idea was, you make a reservation, you get your tickets in advance, and then all you do is show up, and we take care of the rest. We know what package you got. We know what space we're gonna put you in. We know what kind of candy you've already ordered, and then all you have to do is drive in. We make sure you have the perfect parking space, that you have the perfect, you know, that your car is in the perfect viewing angle. We put the drive-in speaker in your window, and so part of the whole reservation thing makes it so that when you get there, it's all done. All you have to do is enjoy your night, and that's part of what we're trying to give people.
Now, you actually have those great big old clunky metal speakers, right?
We do, and you know, it's part of it's part of the appeal. You know, it's we also have the FM transmission thing where people can tune in, but what was, you know, and originally we thought that maybe eventually we'd do away with the drive-in speakers, which actually a lot of drive-ins actually ended up doing. But one of the things we found is that's one of the big things people come for. They come, when we put that speaker in their window, you know, like right in the center of a downtown city, there's just this reaction that people have, you know, there's just like this, like, I would say like 9 out of 10 times when we do that, someone in the car goes, "That's so cool."
Well, it is. It makes
You know,
it makes a special clunk that you never quite forget, you know.
Well, yeah, and you got to remember, like, I'd say like 80% of the people that are coming and having this experience have never had a drive-in speaker in their window, let alone have someone put it in the window for them, you know.
How are people in Miami and Austen handling the no air conditioning?
You know, I was worried about that too. You know, not so much in Miami because, I mean, come on. In Florida, especially in Miami near the water, you know, you guys got it good, okay? Like, you know, I know it gets hotter in the summer, but I mean, the heat of the summer in Miami is like winter in Austin, you know? So, like, surprisingly, though, people keep coming out. And I think, once again, it's like it's a part of the experience, you know? Like, yeah, sure, they like coming out more when it's like, you know, 76 degrees, you know, in the middle of the winter. But you know, in Austin, they've been troopers. They come out in 100-degree weather, you know?
Wow.
And, you know, just sit outside, you know? Because, once again, even though it's 100 degrees, it's not 110 like it was during the day.
What's it cost to go to your mini-urban drive-in?
It sort of depends. You can walk in for $8 for adults, $6 for children, and sit in our like really cute lawn area where we have old car seats and little metal tables and stuff, and drive-in speakers sort of set out around the place so that pedestrians can hear. Or you can drive in from anywhere from $30 to $45, depending on how many people are in your car, which concession package you get. The thing is, all of our car slot packages come with concessions. So, you know, the 10 or 15 or even $20 you normally spend at a regular movie theater on top of your ticket, we put in some concessions for you to start with as part of the package. So, we think it's a pretty good value for a full night's entertainment.
We've got some great snack bar treats. I mean, besides the Raisinets, the Reese's Pieces, and the popcorn, you're the only drive-in I know that's got s'mores.
Yes, and they're not just like pre-made s'mores. You actually put them on a stick and roast the marshmallows right in front of where you're sitting while watching the movie. And that's something we've been doing since the very beginning, and people get a kick out of
it. Now, you can make your reservations online, which I don't think Grandpa ever did for your drive-in.
You make your reservations through our website, and it's very easy to do. And you pay for your car slot reservation concession package in advance, and that package includes 2 people in the car. And then if you decide you want to bring another 2 people or 3 people or 4 people or 5 people, you just pay $6 per head at the gate for any additional people. And, the way it works out is the more people you bring, the less it is per person. And so that, is good because it encourages people to bring more people. And it makes it so we can stay open.
Now, it is possible for us to bring our own food.
Yes, which is another one of the things that we were really sort of adamant about when we started this thing. Most movie theaters are very specific. You cannot bring outside food, and you must buy from them because, any movie theater, including ours, counts on concessions, But we tried to create these packages where you sort of agree to, in advance to get a certain amount of, basic concession. In exchange for that, you can bring an 8-course meal. Like you can create your own meal to go with the movie you're showing. You can bring in a catering company if you really wanted to. And we like that because once again, it's part of you being creative. Our customers, our patrons, bringing their own creativity to the drive-in and sort of creating their own drive-in experience, and we get to share in that experience that they create, and that's one of the things that we really love about.
So I could actually rent the entire drive-in if I wanted to impress my friends, right?
You can. That's the other thing, is that we make it really, not. We make it. We made sure that it wasn't cost prohibitive for anyone that wanted to have a birthday, an anniversary, any type of private drive-in night to themselves. And, it's harder to rent on weekends. You can if you, give like at least 8 weeks notice. But Sunday through Wednesday, we have very good rates. And that's I'd say half of the reason we're still here is that we have lots of people that rent us out for private events, and the private events really is what is partly what sort of funds our ability to do public nights. So it all sort of works out, and it's a big part of the whole drive-in experience and our patrons' drive-in lifestyles. I mean, we've got people in Austin that come to the public nights 2-3 times a year. And then once a year, they rent it out on their own, for either their birthday. We have this one guy that has rented it out for his birthday every year we've been open in Austin. And it's just great. They become old friends.
What would it cost me to rent it for my birthday with s'mores?
With s'mores. Okay. Well, if you do it on a Sunday through Wednesday, you could actually rent it for anywhere from $300 to about $800. And once again, that depends how many people. If you have, 15 people, it's one price. If you have 30 people, it's another. If you have 75 people, it's higher. It's all about the number of people. We try and average it out to where it ends up being around $10 to $15 per person, so that once again, it's possible that anyone could do it.
Well, you've got some interesting rules, and I wondered about the no texting and no cell phones. How does that work for your moviegoers? You'd think they'd want to immediately begin texting everyone what they're doing.
Well, they can, but that's the thing. they got to do it in their cars. That's the whole point. That's the beauty of the drive-in, is that you're in your car. If you brought your car in, you've got your own little room. You could do whatever you want in there, as long as it's legal. Uh, so if you want to talk on your phone, if you want to say every word if you want to speak all the characters' lines out loud, you can do so. You just got to do it with your windows up. No talking or texting is only for when you're outside of your car, walking to the concession stand, or if you're sitting in our pedestrian area.
But you do allow, of course you allow kids, but you also allow dogs?
We allow small dogs as long as they do not bark, they love people, and they're perfectly happy hanging out in the car.
Head out the window.
Yeah, they got to stay in the car. But so yeah, we have very specific rules, but they're only there so that everyone will enjoy themselves.
Now, when you said you've got two slots, two kinds of car slots, are they for big cars, tall cars, and small cars, or how does that break down?
Well, we have the two back rows that are drive-in are for large cars. And when I say large, I don't mean long. I mean tall. Any car that's higher than a compact car goes in the back row. And then compact cars, small cars, they go in the front. And so that's one of those things, that's why you can't reserve a certain space, because when you show up, you got a big car, we put you in one place. If you have a small car, we put you in the other, So those are our two main areas. But then we also have two types of car spaces. One is the vintage speaker, which we have 20 of, which small cars or big cars can get. But then we also have 6 reserved small car FM slots, meaning that if a small car wants, if we've sold out of the vintage speakers, or they want to, save, $8, which is the price difference, they can get the small car FM slot, which is a new middle row we've created that's right between the big cars and the small cars.
And where, in this day and age, did you get the vintage speakers?
Well, for the first 2.5 years, I bought them off eBay. I would find drive-in owners that closed their drive-ins 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, and they still had hundreds of speakers in some, just broken speakers in some farmhouse or whatever, and I would make deals with them and have them send me 20 at a time. But this year, when I moved to Miami and knew I wanted to open here, I really wanted to, up the ante a little bit and sort of turn the volume up to 11. So I actually tracked down the last company in the U.S. that actually has the molding rights to the original RCA drive-in speakers. And they actually make brand new versions of the old RCA drive-in speakers. I made a deal with them, and so all of our cars' drive-in speakers are actually brand new, sparkling drive-in speakers that were cast out of the original mold from the original RCA drive-in speakers.
Well, that's fun. How many slots do you have in Miami, by the way?
I've got 20 vintage speakers and 5 FM.
Okay.
25 is sold out.
Give us your website again, Josh. We're just about out of time.
The website is www.miamiurbandrivein.com.
Thank you very much, Josh Frank at the Blue Starlite Mini-Urban Drive-in. I'm Elaine Viets, and you're listening to the Dead End Job Show.